Hi guys, welcome to another crochet tutorial with me, Laura, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make a cute alpaca, but not quite this alpaca. If you watched my previous video where we visited an alpaca farm and I bought some lovely alpaca yarn, which is more of a sort of super chunky, super bulky weight yarn, and I designed this cute alpaca with that yarn. But in this tutorial we're going to be making a mini one, so we're going to use the exact same pattern, so the identical pattern, but we're going to use a thinner yarn and a smaller hook, and we should end up with a smaller alpaca. Fingers crossed. This is a bit of a test, so I haven't actually tried this yet, but it should end up being exactly the same. But today's video is actually, or today's tutorial, is actually sponsored, would you believe? I know, I never do sponsored videos because I don't really like advertising things or sharing things that I'm not passionate about or I feel like you guys would like. So if I do a review on something or share something, you know it's going to be pretty special. And even then it's usually just yarn or craft materials. But the company BenQ reached out to me and they said, would you be interested in sharing with your followers the Genie e-reading lamps? This is this beautiful lamp here. And if you guys follow me on Instagram, which I highly recommend for lots of behind the scenes hungry stuff, and there's an Instagram TV video where I'm unboxing this lamp. If you follow me on there, you'll know that my current situation is in a very dark apartment before I move into my final home, hopefully in a couple of weeks. And so I was like, this is a great opportunity to try a new lamp. So this lamp is a really unique lamp, so it's quite a modern lamp. It's got a very wide lighting and it's actually got, I always feel a little bit awkward, like I don't want to promote products, but this turned out to be a really good idea to accept this sponsor because I absolutely love this, I genuinely love this lamp. It's so cool because this little ring here, you just touch and it just switches off and switch it on again. And it's an LED lamp and it has this wide lighting, as I said, and also it has a couple of settings to automatically adjust for reading or screen time if it's above a computer screen, and it has mood lighting, so we can make it a nice orange glow for the evening, relaxing evening, romantic glow, or for my tutorials, which is so better, and I switched it off by accident. So really, really good. This is good because you also get a blue light, which is going to be really good for tutorials for me. So because I've been lacking a lot of light for tutorials and my camera's doing a lot of work trying to compensate for that. So today we're going to test this in a tutorial to see if this lamp works with the crochet tutorial. So you guys have to let me know. But yeah, it's a gorgeous lamp. I highly recommend it, and go check it out. I'll put the links in the description below if you're interested in this lamp, especially if you're doing crochet tutorials as well. But enough of this lamp, this beautiful lamp. We'll put it back for a little soft orange glow for now. It's very nice. And yeah, we'll crack on with the tutorial. Okay, so for this tutorial, we're not going to be using the super chunky, super bulky yarn, but obviously you can do. And with this one, using the thicker yarn, I actually used a 5mm crochet hook. So if you do want to follow the pattern but use a thicker yarn, then use a 5mm hook with the super bulky, super chunky yarn. But we're going to use a thinner yarn. So this is more of a DK, like worsted weight yarn, maybe a little bit thinner. And with that, we're using a 3mm crochet hook. And for sake of honesty in this video, I actually decided not to use the lamp for a tutorial because if I put the lamp on, as I mentioned at the beginning, there's way too much light and shadow. But what it is really, really good for is detail. So if I'm crocheting and I want to see detail, and especially in black yarn, very dark yarns, then this lamp's going to be brilliant for seeing the detail. But obviously for a tutorial and camera work, it's not going to work. So we're going to switch it off for this tutorial and hopefully have a nicer lighting. So the first thing we're going to start off with is the feet, and we're going to make 4 feet, obviously. So I'm going to show you the first foot and then make the 4 feet. So we're going to grab our yarn, so any weight yarns. It's going to be a test to see if we can make a smaller alpaca. So we're going to do a little slip knot, and we're going to start off with 8 single crochet in a magic circle or chain 4 loop. So you can choose which one. I'll do a chain 4 for this tutorial because it's easier for beginners. So we're going to chain 4, 3 and 4. I'm going to put our hook into our first chain, bring the yarn through and straight through the loop on our hook. We've got a little loop of chains, and in there we're going to work 8 single crochet. So we're going to start off with a little chain 1. Don't count that as a stitch, it's just for leverage. And putting your hook into the middle of your 4 chain loop and wrapping it around the chains, we do a single crochet. So this pattern's in US terminology. UK terminology, that's going to be a double crochet. We want 8 of those. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then we just pull the tail ends a little bit to bring that in, and then we're just going to slip stitch into our first single crochet. Bring the yarn through, straight through the loop on your hook. So that's the end of the first round. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a chain 1. Again, don't count that as a stitch. And we're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around, keeping a stitch count of 8. So going back into the same stitch you just slip stitched into, do another single crochet, and we do 1 single crochet in each stitch around. 2, next stitch, 3, next stitch, 4, next stitch, 5, next stitch, 6, next stitch, 7, and the last stitch, 8. Okay, and it always looks like there's an extra stitch at the end there, but that's actually what I call a fake stitch. It's actually your previous slip stitch, and we don't want to work into that. If you work into that by accident, you'll end up with too many stitches. So do count you have 8 and avoid that fake stitch and the chain 1 and slip stitch into your first single crochet. Like so. And then we want to pop it out away from you. So you've got like this little cute sort of hat shape. Then we're going to do an increase round. So we're going to start off with a little chain 1. Going back into the same stitch you just slip stitched into, we're going to do 2 single crochet. Oops, didn't go through that properly. 2 single crochet, 1 and another 1, 2. And we're going to do 2 single crochet in each stitch around. So we're going to double our stitch count up to 16. 1 and another 1 in there, 2, 2 in the next stitch, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Keep repeating that all the way around. 1 and 2. And this lamp has actually been really good for my next crochet pattern coming soon, which is a Halloween cat. And I actually made the sample in black yarn, so I won't do that on camera, don't worry. I'll use like grey, a little grey cat. And it's been really, really good for seeing the stitches, but it's just a shame it's not good for tutorials. There's too many shadows, but that just goes to show how bright the lamp is. 1 and 2. And then again, avoiding that fake stitch, slip stitch into your first single crochet. Just join the round, and you should have a stitch count of 16. And one thing I will say about the lamp, keep promoting the lamp, is it's actually designed, this is specifically designed for this as well. It's supposed to be very good for your eyes, so it doesn't give you eye strain, which has been quite good and very useful. So then we're going to do rounds 4, 5, and 6, so 3 rounds. So chain 1, go back into the same stitch you just slip stitched into. We're going to do 3 rounds of just 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So keeping a stitch count of 16. Do that for 3 rounds. Okay, it's just coming up to the end of round 3. I'm really intrigued to see if this is going to work in a smaller yarn. So we're going to be testing this together. Slip stitch to join as per all the other rounds. And that's the end of one of your feet. So we're just going to grab our scissors. Whoops. And pull the yarn through, and we need to make 4 of these. So I'm going to do that off camera. It's going to make 3 more exactly the same, and then we'll come back and move on to the next step. So I forgot to say as well, it's a good idea for this tutorial to have a pair of scissors and a yarn needle as well. So a pair of scissors and a yarn needle. Where's my yarn needle gone? So you can use the yarn needle. You can just cut the ends of your little feet, and going back into the same stitch you just slip stitched into, we're going to just bring that tail end in like so. You should have a stitch count of 16 and put the tail end inside for a little bit of stuffing. Okay, so I'm going to make 3 more of those, and you can use some toy stuffing for this pattern, or you can use yarn scraps as well. So you have a lot of yarn scraps. This whole alpaca here I actually stuffed with yarn scraps because I don't have any toy stuffing, so it's really good to hold on to all the little leftover yarn scraps. So I'm going to go away, do that, and then I shall come back and show you the next step. It's a shame actually, because as soon as I stop filming the tutorial, because I can't really use the lamp because of all the shadows, but it's really dark. The camera is massively compensating for this, and it looks better on camera, but I switched the light back on, and it makes such a difference in such a dull and dark room, and you can see all the definition of the stitches. So it's really good, especially when using black yarn. So anyway, I'm going to crack on and make these feet. So just wanted to share that with you, but the camera's not helping. Okay, so I finished making the other feet. So you should now have 4 feet. And now we're going to move on to the belly. So underneath we have the 4 feet and this little belly area here, just a little extra bit. So it's very, very simple, and we're going to be joining the feet to the belly. So let's just put the feet to the side, and we're going to do a little slip knot and start off by chaining 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're going to do 2 single crochet in our second chain from our hook. So we don't count the loop on our hook. There's our first chain, and there's our second. So going into our second chain, we're going to do 2 single crochet. So 1 and 2. And then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 3 chains. So go into the next chain, 1, and the next chain. And if you may notice, I'm just catching that 1 loop of yarn, which will help us in a minute going back into our chains again. 2, and then 3. And that should leave you with 1 chain left. And in there, we're going to do 2 single crochet to start with. So 1 and another 1 in the same stitch, 2. Okay, so now we're going to work into these chains again in the opposite direction. So we're just going to turn our work in a clockwise direction, and starting in the same chain we just worked the last 2 in, we're going to go back in there again and do 2 more. So go back into the same chain and do 2 more crochet, single crochet, or double crochet in UK terminology. Then in the next 3 chains, we're going to do 1 single crochet. So just matching, mirroring the other side. And because we worked onto that 1 loop, it helps us to see the next chain a bit easier. So we're going to go into there, do 1 single crochet. And I'm just going to tuck in at the tail end as well as I go. Then in the next chain, single crochet, and then in the next chain, single crochet. Then in the last chain, we're going to do 2 single crochet, just finish up with 2 single crochet. 1 and 2. Okay, so we should have a final stitch count from both rows. So now we're going to work in the round of 14 stitches. So moving on to the second round for the belly, we're going to go straight into the next stitch. So this first single crochet that you made, not going to join the round or anything, we're just going to go straight into that stitch and do a single crochet, one single crochet. Then we're going to do 2 single crochet in the next stitch, which should line up with your previous increase. So 2 single crochet, 1 and another one, 2. And then this time we do 1 single crochet in the next 4. So next stitch, single crochet, 1, next stitch, 2, next stitch, 3, next stitch, 4. Then we're going to do 2 single crochet on the corner. So it's like we're making a tiny beginning of a tiny shoe. 2 single crochet on the corner, 1 and 2. Then in the next stitch we do 1 single crochet, just the 1. Then the next stitch we do 2 single crochet on the corner. So 1 and 2. And then just like the other side, we do 1 single crochet in the next 4. So next stitch 1, next stitch 2, next stitch 3, next stitch 4. And we finish up with 2 single crochet. So 1 and 2. Okay, and that is our little belly piece. So we're going to stop there, get our scissors and cut our yarn. So get our scissors and we can just cut that quite short, I think, and just bring that through. And again, like we did with the feet, we're just going to use our yarn needle, thread our yarn needle, and we're going to go into the same, go into the next stitch actually, just bring that down. Okay, so you should have a final stitch count of 18, should have gone up by 4. So what we're going to do now is we're going to join the feet to the belly. So this is a little bit fiddly, and this is why this is probably not a beginner pattern, a little bit more intermediate. But hopefully if you are a beginner, you can still follow along. But what I'm going to do first of all is just cut down this tail end. So, and maybe even hide sewing this tail end so it's a bit more secure. And then trim that down as well, just so they're not in the way. And use that for stuffing later. Okay, so what we want is for the right, is this the right side? Well, I call that the wrong side and this is the right side, so it's completely subjective. But we're going to join the feet to the belly. So this is, okay, so the next part is probably the most complicated part and what makes this pattern probably an advanced pattern. Never say never for a beginner though, but this is literally the 3rd attempt at filming this because even I've messed up and it's my pattern. But what we want to do is we want to take our little belly piece here, and normally we have sort of like a right side of the stitches and like the wrong side of the stitches. So we're looking for the wrong side, and we want to start, this is very important, we want to start in the bottom right hand corner. So here we have, if we turn it over, we have our little 2 stitches and our little increase, and then the first one of these 4 along the edge. So you want to find the first increase stitch there, and we're going to take a foot and starting in any stitch, so just put the belly down for a second with the wrong side facing you. Going to take the foot and then making sure the opening is facing you. I'm going to go at the top somewhere here, go in any stitch, and then again picking this up, find that first increase stitch. So let's have a look at this closely. We've got the 1 by itself, and then we've got the 2 single crochet. So in that first of the 2 single crochet, we put our hook into there. Okay, so then what we want to do is we want to join our yarn. So we're going to grab our yarn and just holding that tail end, bring the yarn through both stitches and secure with a chain 1. So we're not going to count that as a stitch, it's just to secure it. I'm going to go back into there again and again go through the belly part as well again. So go through those 2 stitches again and do a single crochet. I'm going to do that in the next 2 stitches as well. So go into the next stitch on the foot, the next stitch, which is going to be your second of those 2 single crochet, and do a single crochet, and then one more time. So go into the next stitch, and this is your first of your 4 stitches. Want to do a single crochet join there as well. So it's very important that we end up crocheting in a clockwise direction, because the previous attempt at doing this I ended up working anti-clockwise because I started here instead, and then my stitches were inside out, as it were. So these nice sort of outside stitches were on the inside. So it's very important to start in the bottom right hand corner and make sure you're crocheting clockwise. Okay, so now along the length of here we've got the next 2 stitches on the body, and we just want to work 1 single crochet in the next 2. So 1 and next stitch 2, and then we want to take our next foot. So, and again, starting in any stitch, but go make sure the opening is facing you and start in the top somewhere. So put your hook into there and then put your hook into the last of these 4 along the edge on the belly. And we'll do a join with a single crochet there. And do the same in the next 2 stitches. So now you've got the 2 single crochet. Do a single crochet there, and a single crochet in the next stitch as well, which is that one there. Okay, so that's our next foot joined. Now at the top of the body piece we have, this is obviously where the join was, so it kind of jumps down a bit, but we have the 1 stitch at the top, if you remember. So we just want to go into there and do 1 single crochet, and now we want to join our next foot. So the first thing to do is get the foot, make sure the opening is facing you, and then starting at the top, put your hook into any stitch and find the next stitch, which is going to be the first of these increase. Put your hook into there and join the foot with a single crochet. Do that in the next 2 stitches. So next stitch for our second increase, 1 single crochet, and the next stitch as well, which is going to be the first of the next 4 along the edge. Okay, so that's our 3rd foot joined. Now we're along the edge again, and we want to do 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. It's just on the body, so 1 and next stitch 2. That should leave us with 4 stitches. So now we want to take our next foot. Again, make sure the opening is facing you. Put your hook into the top, any stitch, and finding the body, where are we at? Make sure you're facing the right direction. Go into the next stitch on the body, bring it through both, do a single crochet, and do that for the next 2 stitches as well. So now we're working into this increase on the corner, on the body, on the belly, and next stitch as well. So that's our last foot joined, and then we have 1 stitch at the top on the body, work into there, 1 single crochet, and then we want to find the first stitch that we made, which is, if we have a look on the inside, so this is our first single crochet. We're just going to slip stitch into there to join the round. Okay, so we've joined our feet and hopefully got something that looks a bit strange like this. But hopefully now we're going to be working in a clockwise direction. So it's very, very important. So we're going to start off with a little chain 1, and then we're going to skip these 3 stitches on the belly. We're not going to work around just the belly. We need to work around the feet. So we're going to find this first foot here. So So instead of carrying on in this direction, we're going to find the first empty stitch on this foot here. So that one was worked into, so we're going to go into here, and you should have 13 stitches per foot, so it's a good idea to count. So we're going to go into there and do a single crochet, do one single crochet, next 13, so 1, 2, 3. As you can see, the stitches are on the right, they're facing the right way if you have a preference. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Sometimes it gets confusing where you've got the join, but just make sure you have 13 stitches. So 11. Make sure you're looking for these little V's. 12 and 13. So I was going to double check I had 13 there. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. Yes, so we've got 13 stitches around the foot, and now we do want to find these 2 stitches on the edge of the belly. So finding those, put your hook into there and do 1 single crochet in the next 2 on the belly, 1 and 2, and then we work onto the next, around the next foot. So we're going to skip these 3 on the inside, find the first empty stitch on the foot. So this one, you can see it's got a stitch coming out of it, so find the nice empty one and do 1 single crochet in the next 13 on the next foot. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So look for those V's. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13. You can probably avoid these dodgy joins by just working continuously rather than joining the round on the feet, so that's completely up to you. As long as you've got 13 stitches, and then now we're at the top, and at the top we only have 1 stitch. So find that stitch on the belly, just the one by itself, and do 1 single crochet in there. And then again we find the next foot, so we're going to skip these 3 on the inside, find the first empty stitch here, and do 1 single crochet in the next 13 on the next foot, so our 3rd foot. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13. So always make sure you got 13. And now we're along the edge, the longer edge of the belly, and find the 2 stitches that are empty along the edge. 1 and there's the next one, 2. And with our last foot, again we skip the 3 on the inside, find the first empty stitch here and do 1 single crochet in the next 13. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Where's 13? There's 13. That's over my dodgy join. 13. And then we have the one stitch at the top up here. You can find that stitch by itself. Do one single crochet in there, and then we're going to slip stitch in the first single crochet of this first foot. So it looks like there's a stitch there, that's your fake stitch, and you can tell because there's a tiny little stitch next to it, which is that chain 1. So make sure to skip this fake stitch, which is your previous slip stitch, skip the chain 1 and find that first single crochet that you made. So you may want to use a stitch marker or a bit of yarn just to help you remember where you began. Even though we're joining the round, it can get confusing. So slip stitch into there. Okay, so by the end of that round, you should have a stitch count around the feet. So 13 here, 1 here, or was it 2? 13 here, 1 here, 13, 2, 13, 1. You should have a stitch count of 58 stitches. Okay, 58. It should look a bit weird like this. But now we're going to move on to the third round. We're going to start with a little chain 1. Just doing this just for beginners. Try and make it a little bit easier to understand where you start and finish the round. But we do a chain 1, don't count a stitch. Go back into the first stitch you slip stitched into, and we're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around, keeping a stitch count of 58, and you should be working clockwise. And all your stitches should be matching up with be the same side, same direction, so they match up with your feet. So keep a stitch count of 58. So 2, 3. It's just coming up to the end of the round, and that's a proper stitch there. So that's the one on the end, and then that is a fake stitch because there's our tiny little chain 1. That's our first single crochet. So I'm going to slip stitch into there and just double check your stitch count is 58 after that round, and then hopefully it starts to get a little bit easier now if I've got this pattern correct. So what we're going to do now is we're going to, if you want to work continuously, you don't have to worry about these fake stitches. It's entirely up to you, but I'm just doing this so I remember where to start and finish. So you can use a stitch marker as well. Start off with a chain 1, don't count that as a stitch, and starting in the same stitch you just slip stitched into, we'll do 1 single crochet in the first 27 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and this is why it's important to start joining these feet in the right way, because it will affect the 5, the decreases and the structure of the body later on. So we have to make sure we join them 6 in the correct sequence. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 and 27. So one single crochet in the first 27, quite a few. Then we're going to single crochet 3 stitches together. So the next 3 stitches, I'm going to do an invisible decrease. So what that is instead of going through both loops, I'm just going to go under the front loop. So that's the first stitch, and then the next stitch just under the front loop, and then the next stitch, so the next 3 just under the front loop, like so. Bring the yarn through those 3 front loops and then yarn over to do a single crochet, and it just creates a smoother decrease. Then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 26 stitches. So where's the next stitch? This one here. So 1 single crochet in the next 26. So 1, 2, 25 and 26. So 1 single crochet in the next 26, and we're almost back at the beginning. What we're going to do is we're going to single crochet the last 2 stitches together. So you should have 2 stitches left, but also the first single crochet together. So I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to do an invisible decrease again as well. So just going under the front loop of the second to last stitch, under the front loop, the last stitch, then find your first single crochet. And what we're going to do is just going to go into that front loop as well. Bring the yarn through those 3 stitches, front loops, and then finish with a single crochet. And then in this second stitch from the beginning of the round, we're going to slip stitch into there instead to join the round. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. You should have a stitch count now that's gone down to 54. So 54 stitches. So moving on to the next round, we're going to do again a little chain 1. We don't count as a stitch. And then we're just going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around, so keeping a stitch count of 54 and starting in the same stitch. You just slip stitched into, we do 1 single crochet and 1 single crochet in each stitch around, keeping a stitch count of 54. So I shall do that, then I shall come back. Nice easy round. It's just coming up to the end of the round, so just worked 1 single crochet in each stitch around, keeping a stitch count of 54. And again, that's a little fake stitch to find your first single crochet and slip stitch into there. Okay, so hopefully it's starting to take shape a little bit more. And what we're going to do now is a decrease round, so we're going to do a chain 1. Starting in the same stitch, you just slip stitched into, we're going to do 1 single crochet in the first 7 stitches. The first 7, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Then we're going to do a decrease, so we're going to single crochet 2 stitches together. So I'm going to do an invisible decrease, so I'm going to go under the front loop, the next stitch, and front loop of the next stitch, bring the yarn through, finish with a single crochet. And we're going to repeat that all the way around. So then we do 1 single crochet in the next 7 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then we single crochet the next 2 together. So do a visible decrease again, next front loop, yarn through, single crochet. And then again, 1 single crochet in the next 7, then a decrease, all the way back to the beginning. Just repeat that and your stitch count should go down to 48. Okay, so 1 single crochet in the next 7, then single crochet 2 together. 2, 6 and 7, just coming up to the end of the round, and they should end on a decrease. You should have 2 stitches left. So single crochet those 2 together, and then we slip stitch into our first single crochet to join the round. So our stitch count should now have gone down to 48. Then we're just going to do a nice easy round of 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So we chain 1, start in the same stitch, slip stitch into, and do 1 single crochet in each stitch around, keeping a stitch count of 48. So I shall do that and then I shall come back. A bit easier now once you've got the feet joined. Okay, just come up to the end of this round. So you should still have a stitch count of 48. Slip stitch to join. Now we're going to do another decrease round. So we'll chain 1, and we're going to do 1 single crochet in the first 6 this time. So go back into the single crochet you just slip stitched into. Do 1 single crochet in the first 6. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then we're going to single crochet 2 together. So I'm going to do the invisible decrease, just going into the front loops. Single crochet, and repeat that all the way around. So 1 single crochet in the next 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then single crochet 2 stitches together. Just the front loops for an invisible decrease, a nice neat decrease. And just repeat that all the way around back to the beginning, and your stitch count should go down to 42. So 1 single crochet in the next 6, then single crochet 2 together, and 6, and they should end on a decrease, 2 stitches left, single crochet those 2 together, then slip stitch in your first single crochet to join the round, and your stitch count should now have gone down to 42, and hopefully it's starting to look a little bit more alpaca shaped, amigurumi alpaca shaped anyway. And now we're going to do a simple round of just 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So do a chain 1, starting in the same stitch you just slip stitched into, work 1 single crochet in each stitch around, keeping a stitch count of 42. So I should do that and I should come back. Okay, it's just coming up to the end of this round, and slip stitch to join in our first single crochet. And now we're going to do one more decrease round, starting with a chain 1. This time we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 5, first 5. So starting in same stitch you just slip stitched into, do 1 single crochet in the first 5, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then single crochet 2 stitches together. So I'll do the invisible decrease, front loops only, and then we just repeat that all the way around. So we do 1 single crochet in the next 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then single crochet 2 together. So repeat that pattern all the way around back to the beginning, and your stitch count should go down to 36. Okay, just coming up to the end, and 5, and then single crochet 2 stitches, the last 2 stitches together. Then we're going to slip stitch in our first single crochet to join the round. So by the end of that round, you should have a stitch count of 36. Okay, so moving on to the next round, what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a little chain 1, and we're actually going to single crochet 2 stitches together, and we're going to do that 6 times. So starting in the same stitch you just slip stitched into, single crochet the first 2 stitches together. I'm going to do that 6 times. That's 1, next 2, 2, next 2, 3, next 2, 4, next 2, oops, 5, and the next 2, 6. Okay, so we single crochet 2 stitches together 6 times. Then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 16 stitches. So next stitch is 1 single crochet in the next 16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Then we're going to single crochet 2 stitches together 4 times. So next 2 together, 1, next 2 together, 2, next 2 together, 3, then the last 2 together, 4. Okay, and then we're going to slip stitch in our first decrease to join the round. Okay, so your stitch count should have gone down to 26. Hopefully it looks a little something like this. It's starting to take shape. See his bottom coming together. So now what we're going to do the next round is we're going to again start with a little chain 1. And we're going to single crochet 2 stitches together and do it 4 times. So starting in this same stitch you just slip stitched into, crochet the first 2 together, get a little bit fiddly. That's 1, then the next 2, 2, then the next 2, 3, then the next 2, 4. Then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 12 stitches this time, the next 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11 and 12. Then we're going to single crochet the last set of 3 together, so 2, 4, 6 stitches. So single crochet the next 2 together, and do that 3 times. So single crochet the next 2 together, single crochet the next 2 together, then single crochet the last 2 together. And then we slip stitch to join the round in our first decrease. There we go. Okay, so our stitch count should have gone down to 19, I think. And at this point, it might be a good idea to actually start stuffing the body of your alpaca. So I'm going to get some yarn stuffing and just stuff down the legs and a bit of the bottom, and then we shall come back and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so I finished stuffing the body and the feet, and now we're just going to move on to the next round. So let's just put my hook back in there. We're going to start off on the next round. We're going to start with chain 1 again, and we're going to single crochet the first 2 together, starting in the same stitch. Just slip stitched into, single crochet those 2 together, and we're going to single crochet the next 2 together. Okay, and then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 12 stitches. So starting in the next stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. So 1 single crochet in the next 12. Then we're going to single crochet 2 stitches together. This one and the next one. And then we should have a 1 stitch left. And what we're going to do is a very similar thing as we did earlier in the pattern. We're going to single crochet this last stitch and our first decrease together. So to do that, we're going to go in the front loop of the next stitch, and that is actually our fake stitch in our tiny chain 1. It's quite difficult to tell, so do look for the actual decrease stitch that you made here and go onto that front loop and bring the yarn through and through, and then we do a single crochet, and then we're going to slip stitch into the next decrease to join the round. So hopefully that makes sense for you. We should have a stitch count of 15 by the end of that. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, hang on, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. There we go. So it gets a little bit easier now. We're actually going to do 2 rounds of not 2 rounds actually, we're going to do rounds 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So how many rounds is that? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rounds. So we're doing the neck now. 10 rounds of just 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So that's me not paying attention to my notes. So we'll start off with a chain 1 and starting in the same stitch, just slip stitched into, we do 1 single crochet in each stitch around, keeping a stitch count of 15. We're going to do that for 10 rounds. 10 rounds, okay? So I shall do that and then I shall come back. Okay, so just coming up to the last stitch
on round 10 of the neck. Obviously you can make it longer if you want to, but we're just going to slip stitch to join there, and we're actually going to leave that for part 1 and join me in part 2.
So unfortunately I have to stop there, so I'm sorry I've left you with a headless alpaca, but do join me in part 2, which is coming very soon, or may even already be here. Check in the description below depending on when you're viewing this. This is quite a long pattern, and in my next video I'll show you how to finish the head, obviously with the loop stitch, so maybe you can use this time to learn the loop stitch if that's new to you. And also we're going to make a really cute finger pom-pom and some decoration as well. But I will see you soon for some more crochet crafting fun. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.